Hello everybody, welcome back to 40 Days with Dietrich. We are here on day number 6, just motoring along. Our passage today is taken from the book Discipleship. And so we have a small little excerpt here. The title given to this excerpt is Stepping into Faith. And we should actually just remind everybody, or to say, that when Bonhoeffer is writing his books and his writings, he doesn't give them titles. Right? He's not writing just paragraph by paragraph and giving a title to the paragraph. So the titles given to these excerpts are somewhat arbitrary, but I will say them as we go along. So the title, Stepping into Faith, this is taken from Bonhoeffer's book, Discipleship. Jesus says to anyone who uses their faith or lack of faith to excuse their acts of disobedience to his call. First, obey. Do the external works. Let go of what binds you. Give up what is separating you from God's will. Do not say, I do not have the faith for that. You will not have it so long as you remain disobedient, so long as you will not take that first step. Do not say, well, I have faith, so I do not have to take the first step. You do not have faith, because and so long as you will not take that first step. Instead, you have hardened yourself in disbelief under the appearance of humble faith. It is an evil excuse to point from inadequate obedience to inadequate faith, and from inadequate faith to inadequate obedience. It is the disobedience of the faithful if they confess their unbelief where their obedience is required, and if they play games with that confession. You believe, so take the first step. It leads to Jesus Christ. You do not believe? Well, take the same step. It is commanded of you. The question of your belief or your unbelief is not yours to ask. The works of obedience are required and must be done immediately. The situation is given in which faith becomes possible and really exists. Okay, so one of the things with Bonhoeffer is, and it does well for us to remember, Bonhoeffer is always writing against the backdrop of Nazi Germany. And we know that, but sometimes we forget how strongly that influences what he's writing. So that's playing in the background, and particularly for Bonhoeffer, Bonhoeffer is also addressing the failure of the Christian church. The Christian church that did not address the atrocities of the Holocaust. People knew what was happening, did not speak out against the evil of Nazism or of Adolf Hitler, and in some places actually joined in and actually kind of participated or turned their eyes away from what was happening in order for their self-preservation. So that's kind of playing in the background, and Bonhoeffer's work, Discipleship, really takes aim at what is the call of the Christian, but also what is the call of the church in the midst of this time. And so that strong language that he talks about here, where he talks about the disobedience of the faithful who play games with their confession, that's kind of what he's addressing. He's addressing the faithful people who are, as Bonhoeffer sees it, stepping away from their obedience to Jesus, which calls them to suffer with the Jews, to address the atrocities, to work against Nazism and for the healing of the nation. Bonhoeffer says that those who don't do that are playing games with their faith. Because for Bonhoeffer, the call of Jesus is the challenging call to enter into the hardship of life and the suffering of the Jewish people, and to work for redemption. And the Christian church in Nazi Germany necessarily wasn't always doing that. For Bonhoeffer, Christian faith, saying that you are a person of faith, necessarily has to mean that you are a person who is obeying the call of Jesus. Again, he talks a lot about here obedience and disobedience, and we've seen in previous passages that he talks about that. But you can't kind of rest upon your faith as some sort of reason not to obey the call of Jesus. For Bonhoeffer, that's just completely self-contradictory. Nor can you rest upon your lack of faith. Well, I'm not necessarily fully into this Jesus guy. For Bonhoeffer, the call is always the same. You believe, well, take that first step. Take the first step in obeying the call of Jesus. It leads to Jesus Christ. If you do not believe, well, you know what? The call is the same. Take that step to Jesus and live your life following his commandments for you. And then he has this section right at the beginning where he talks about the question of your belief or your unbelief is not yours to ask. In the book Ethics, what Bonhoeffer talks about there is that, the ethical question of what is good, what is not good, Bonhoeffer says that's not the question that we ask. We are not the judges of what is good or what is not good. Jesus judges all that. The question that we ask is, are we following God's will? Are we following the commandments of Jesus? That is the question in which we stand. That is the question that we rest in. And in the season of Lent, that is a good question for us to reflect on through this journey. Where do I obey the call of Jesus? Where is Jesus calling me forward? God bless you in your Lenten journey, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.